what's going to happen next and what we can do to establish a bedrock of predictability, a bedrock that we can pivot on, that we can build off of. So really, honestly, after a week like this, what is going to happen next, right? So I think we can be fairly self-assured that whatever is going to happen next, we are probably not going to be able to predict it, right? COVID-19, clear unpredictability. You see it in the first spike there, the 2023 banking crisis, single largest bank run in history. These have all happened in the last 5 years. I mean, how many people feel like COVID was like 20 years ago? Right? It really was just around the corner, 5 years ago. The banking crisis, which was cataclysmic, especially inside of Silicon Valley for about 35 minutes, that was 2 years ago. I mean, it's just almost hard to imagine how compressed things are going and how quickly they're going and how difficult that makes all of our jobs. And I am in marketing too. We have to generate leads for our business. This is what I'm doing here. Our company is Extol. We run a referral and advocacy platform. That's all I'll talk about our company. But I'm in the same job that you guys are. And trying to figure out how exactly we're going to predict for the next year is becoming harder and harder and harder. But luckily, all that's behind us, right? Now, in 2025, uncertainty is a given, right? And there's the obvious ones, like tariffs, as though it were like like the early part of the 20th century, 1920s. Consumer debt, tech platform stability. Who here had AWS is going to fail for the day on their bingo card last week? I mean, we got the pings just like everyone else did, and we're like, what's happening? Is our software bad? The entire Eastern Seaboard is down for computing. Like that wasn't on our top 10 list of things, right? Regulatory instability. The one that really is kind of near and dear pain causer for us is acquisition costs, right? The acquisition costs were terrible 5 years ago. They are atrocious now. Acquisition costs can be as high as $1,750 per customer. That is insanity. So Google, now the big story about Google was with ChatGPT and AI, nobody searches anymore, right? Like nobody searches anymore. Google's CAC is up 7% this year. The amount that they are charging us for media is up 7% this year. Now let's put it in perspective. Retail banking growth is up 5.5 if it goes well, right? So this loser search thing is now taking 7% more, and it's going to take 7% more and 7% more and 7% more over time to the point that how much of our profit can we give away just to bring someone in through the obvious portals? And I think this is probably the greatest source of instability for any of us. Now, bear in mind, part of our business is financial services. Part of our business is retail. And so we've gotten the opportunity to watch direct-to-consumer retailing. The Warby Parker glasses, all those cool little brands that you could buy. The last people to buy all the ads on New York's taxis before that stupid friend device, remember? D2C was blazing when Facebook ads were cheap. So it was Chinese manufacturing, cheap Facebook ads, cockadoodle profits, right? As soon as the prices of media went up high enough, how often do you hear people talking about D2C anymore? Never. I mean, to start a D2C business right now would just be a hair north of insanity. They are coming for the rest of us. That is our fate. The more of the profit that gets taken by this sort of big tech acquisition cost, the less you have to work with on cool projects like the CRM project we just saw here. Like the money for that project has to come from somewhere, and for it to come from somewhere, it can't all be heading out the door in our acquisition costs. And then there is the mother of chaos. Like, I love AI. I think it's super cool. I love being able to use AI as a consumer. It is clearly unbelievably transformational. But just try to internalize what Zuckerberg is saying here. You are a business. You come to us. You tell me what our objective is. You connect to your bank account. You don't need a creative. You don't need targeting. You don't need measurement. Just literally just read the results as they come out. Now, how many of you all think that this is just going to come for free, or that all this efficiency is going to lower media costs? Don't all raise your hands at once. Right? This is the mother of chaos. And I'm not even talking about the fact that OpenAI has to make some money at some point. They cannot exist by sending $40 billion out the door every year, that money is going to have to come from somewhere. Anybody want to guess where the money is going to come from to achieve OpenAI's $1 trillion valuation? Raise your hand if you think it's you. So what do we do? How do we get back control? Because we are the ones creating value. I may be writing software, you may be writing loans, you may be running a team inside, but you are creating the value. How do we make certain that we are getting adequately compensated, that we have control over our businesses, that our businesses survive in this world of chaos, while still giving, an interesting experience for customers and meeting them where they are? I think winning in AI is winning with people. Now that sounds probably opposite of what the people at AI would like to do. For them, winning with AI is getting rid of people. I think banking, more than almost anything else in our economy, needs people. Because it is a product that is fiendishly difficult to differentiate outside of what's the rate you're going to give me on a 6-month deposit. It is incredibly difficult to figure out what is good and not good. Right? When I was in grade school and opened my first bank account, like a passbook bank account with Norwalk Savings Society, local bank in Norwalk, Connecticut. Why do you think I banked at Norwalk Savings Society? Because my parents did. And why do you think my parents banked at Norwalk Savings Society? Because the other parents did, right? There wasn't old enough that their parents did, but yeah, I think that was like Rochester Bank and Trust or something like that. It is because we need that. We need the human element. We need the trust. We need the authenticity. We need to know that we're not making a terrible mistake. I'm not even going to tell this story. It actually makes me so angry. In any case, we need the trust. We need the authenticity. We need the human element. What people don't realize is that the AIs are going to run on the human element. An AI is not going to just be a calculator that returns, here's the bank that has the highest rate of return or the lowest interest rate. That is not what AI is going to do. For one, it's going to target based on who paid for the ads, but even outside of it, it is going to mine conversations. And it's going to constantly mine conversations, your Gmail conversation, your SMS. So the impression that the AI is going to have of you is going to be the aggregate impression that all of the people who talk about you have. So if you have nobody talking about you, you will have no AI talking about you. So you have to understand that all of AI is going to bear on the human element. This is a business that demands a human element. You must focus on the human element. All right, institutions that thrive, it's the ones that foster genuine loyalty, that actually have a product that people like. And again, you can even have an undifferentiated product that people like simply by just not screwing them over. Right? There's a lot of reasons people stay with products. There's a small number of reasons why people leave. But I've been banking with the same bank forever. This is called earned growth. Earned growth is defined as the amount of revenue that you have that has been derived either from your customer base directly, meaning cross-sells and upsells, or from your customer base indirectly through referrals, advocacy, ambassador, et cetera. So earned growth is you did the work and people valued you for that work, and it caused more revenue, right? And so the goal here is to get earned growth. I mean, that is how we're going to calculate this. So there are 3 steps. Now I'm going to get into the practical part and less of the making things up and saying them in a really, really firm voice. The number 1 is quality. Honestly, if you take nothing else from this presentation about how to do referrals and advocacy, understand that quality is the one thing that matters. And by quality, I mean, what makes an account higher quality or lower quality? They use their debit card. They use a credit card. They take out loans. They stick around. They increase their balance. All the things that we know, because we run a CRM system, and the engagement we're looking for is to drive those things. So we know that quality, which is just another word for long-term value, comes from people who are closer, who are more willing to engage with us. So if you are going to get into a referral program or an advocacy program, you have to focus on quality. And the reason you do is a referral program will give you 15 to 25% higher quality, however you measure it, than any other source of acquisition. It will give you higher new to file. It'll get you higher debit card use rates. It'll get you higher loan adoption rates, it will get you higher balances, it will get you longer tenure, period. And that is not just for the friends that are brought in through acquisition, it is also for the people who do the advocating. So if you want a healthier customer base, you want them all to be touching some form of a referral or advocacy program. Second thing, and I'll get into more detail about each of these, is onboarding is the key to everything. I think you guys already know this, but it is also the key to building an earned good customer base. And then the third is if you want to feed quality in onboarding, it's advocacy. So let's talk about quality for a second. I have a phrase I like to use: how someone enters is how they leave. Right? So how you acquire the customer, the experience they have with you acquire the customer, will define their tenure. When they come in through referral, they will stay longer. When they come in perk chasing, they will stay shorter. We all know that. We've all experienced it. Our data teams will tell us that. Right? You want to bring them in at a high level. The highest level you can bring someone in is one where they do not regret coming in and they feel like they've made a choice. When your friend tells you to come in, you have lower regret, you have higher agency. Stable customers come from stable customers. As I mentioned before, they can be 15% as profitable, sometimes even higher. What I have on the chart here is, I don't even know what this chart is. Oh, it's the qualification rate. This is of all of the people who came in through the funnel, what percent were qualified. A median 67% qualification rate at 90-day retention. That's very high. This is coming in through referral. And again, it also reflects itself on the advocates. Terms are the magic. And terms are just when you open connect your account for direct pay, direct deposit, when you do your first debit card, if you are in this locality, all the rules that you set will allow you to control for quality. Now, obviously, strict rules will result in lower performance, but the rules that you set end up defining your quality. If we get the quality right, we get the whole thing right. And the reason why we focus on this so much is a lot of times people ask the question of how do I know that the referred customers are customers that we would not have gotten otherwise? And the way that we determine this is we will actually look at the source of customers that came in through referral, compare them against the ones that came in through just walk-ins as well as on-site search. It's Google, Meta, and we'll just compare their tenure. We'll look at what their 6-month behavior is, we'll look at their 12-month behavior is, and if you're seeing a difference, you know that referral is making a difference. And it holds up across the board. Google, Meta, they will charge you whether a customer is good or a dud. In referral, if you're bringing in a dud customer, you don't pay. Right? It is as clear as that. The second part is onboarding. I don't have my timer on here, by the way, so I have actually no idea where I am on the time. So 40% of fintech signups abandon accounts. It's difficult to sign up to direct deposit. You really do have to focus on the onboarding experience. All of that is important, and you know it. I don't need to tell you that. What I do need to tell you is the onboarding is when you create an advocate, not just when you create a customer. So what you want to try to do is drive what we call participation. I'll talk about that in a second. When they come in through the onboarding process, you want to make certain that they are being asked to refer, that even if they don't end up bringing in another customer, that they advocate in some way, because again, that puts them at the higher level of value. What we really are trying to do is drive the highest participation possible. Right? So when we're talking about a earned growth, when we're talking about building a large customer base, what we want to do is think about the entire journey, right? So this is going to be nothing new to y'all. Someone's curious, someone's considering, they started an application, they submitted an application, they got an account approved, there's some downstream things. What we were trying to do is to say, how do we, bring them in? So this is bringing them in through referral, but also once they're in here, how do we drive them to higher value? Now sometimes we're going to say, we want them to download an app, we want to use a debit card, we want to apply for a loan. But the most important thing we want to do is get them to refer. Because the customers that reach this far left, that reach this higher value, are the customers that are going to stay longer, use more of your products, have a high engagement level. And that first 30 to 90 days is when it happens. Right? So we want to make certain that we capture them there. Second thing that's important is we need to understand that the journey that someone goes through in becoming a customer is not as magic as you'd imagine in an online setup. In most cases, the There are things like in-branch. There are things like someone does half their work digital and then goes into the branch. So what we found is the customers that have the highest participation tend to do a portfolio of activities in their advocacy program. Number one, they'll do multiple program types, so that they'll have a refer a friend program, as well as like a ambassador program, as well as a welcome offer. The second is they will make certain they're doing in-bank banking and in-app. In some of our cases, especially with credit unions, we will actually provide a button where they can print out a piece of paper and hand it to the associate. And it is amazing how much that increases the yield, right? We have it so that you can, if you're a real estate agent, you can open an app and it has a little QR code that you can show to somebody. Anything that we can to make it that we're meeting the person exactly where they are, and that in the process they appropriately get compensated for their participation, we want to make sure we do it. The last bit is bursts. Too many of us, even if we have referral and advocacy programs, will say, I have one. It's a 20 and 20. It's been running, since my child first got out of preschool. It has to change. I mean, the highest performing ones we have a customer that gets 30+% of their new customer acquisition through referral. That's astounding. They change the offer every 2 weeks. Because sometimes just change is necessary. Because people just stop noticing, they stop caring, right? So you need to make it easy to change. And bursts are the way we do that. Bursting, testing, you can turn it into one of your top sources, and it will always be your highest quality source. By the way, as an aside, when people participate in referral programs, they give you their email number or they give you their phone number. All right, we forget about that. We think about only the downstream yield of new accounts. They are giving you, not only are they giving you their phone number, they are giving you permission to use it. And reachability is a gift. It just is. And it's something you can use across the board. All right, the last piece of it is advocacy in and of itself becomes interesting. So this is a kind of a normal sharing. Somebody shares it with a couple of their friends. That's great, right? That's just normal sharing. In a lot of cases, in the majority of cases, the friends won't necessarily even click. But it's a little bit like we pay for ads even though people aren't buying at the moment they pay it. Anytime someone is receiving a message about your brand is good. Then you start getting people who are like, oh, I actually am pretty good at this, and I'm an ambassador or an affiliate, but I could drive a lot. Right? And you will see that happen. We tend to put them in a different program because it's usually better, give them better feedback, change the rewards. Sometimes you get this. That's the guy who posts on the YouTube channel. Right? It's like, we're not certain that's always great, so what we can do is we can limit the number of shares they do, we can limit the number of rewards they can earn, we can limit the number of people who can receive rewards off of their program. So all of this allows us to become smarter. And when I say program rules matter for quality, we don't want to get into a low quality state just because there was an interesting offer. All right? So that's what we're talking about here. This is the best case, where one person refers another person, refers another person, refers another person, and it happens. All of these are, by the way, from our tool, they're real data. And it does happen, and that's really the most virtuous. At the end of the day, what we do, especially if you think about fintechs, but I think it's going to be more and more with the credit unions as well, finance is a networking activity. Most of the big brands you've heard of that have emerged in the last, let's say, 10, 15 years, have almost always had a very, very strong referral component. All right. Now, in some cases, it's a native referral, where if I pay you, that is a referral because it's coming from me to you, you open an account to receive it. But in a lot of cases, it's with companies like Wealthfront and Robinhood, it's the actual direct referral. As I said before, advocacy doesn't just make bringing new accounts, makes the old accounts stickier. On a numbers level, because if you really want to do this, you do need to know how to measure it. The first and foremost, you want to know what percentage of your customers are coming from other customers. This is that earned growth that I'm talking about. You need to know this, because you cannot grow what you do not know. All right? You need to know this. What percent of those referred customers activate in state? That's the quality. What's your 90-day retention? That's the quality. And then I have it as are they optimized? What is your participation rate? And participation rate is simply what percentage of the customers, of your active customer base, have done some form of advocacy. So, close this down for a second. We are in uncertain times. I think everybody knows it. The reason we call a customer base a base is because it is the stable thing. The thing that you have that the media companies do not have and that your competitors do not have is your customers. And you think, maybe it's my brand, maybe it's my products, maybe it's my app, maybe that's the big differentiator. Your big differentiator is the set of people that buy your shit. That is your base. That is why we call it the customer base. If we want to get, I don't want to close this. When I was kind of coming up, I'm a CEO of a company now. When I was coming up doing marketing and product, one of the things we talked about a lot was brand. And there were lots of definitions of what the value of a brand was. You know, it was like unearned recall, earned recall, unaided recall, lots of different ways to calculate, did I have a good brand? And people would say, Xerox is a good brand, then Apple's a good brand, then Google's a good brand. And it all sounded kind of funny to me. I'm like, that doesn't really feel like what a brand is. And one day it became very clear to me. A brand is simply the sum of all the conversations happening inside of any period of time about your company. If no one is talking about your company, there is no brand. If you can drive people to talk about your company, you are literally driving brand. That is what you are doing. And if you can drive brand high enough to get to this earned growth level, then you will actually start driving brand even through channels you never expected. And I will tell you, when the AI agents come and start becoming a bigger and bigger part of how we buy, that is going to become more and more important, because the AI agents are going to be based on how we interact, how we talk, and the conversations we have. Your customers are your rock, built from them. Any questions? Come on. Who has a referral program? What do you think of it? So who doesn't have one, and why don't you have one? Thank you. Yes.
Hi. So you talk a lot about like business to customer kind of systems. How would you say that earned growth and referrals can be applied to B2B?
I think it's great. There's two ways that you want to think about in B2B. One is thinking about a business as a consumer, as an account holder, and it works the same way. I mean, you're not going to give away $10 gift cards, but you can certainly operate that way. We do it with merchant accounts. We do it with home services. We do it with SaaS software. It can certainly work, right? The other part is asking, how do businesses play a role in your acquisition journey? All right, so we will work with property managers. We'll work with real estate agents. We'll work with, in some cases, teams, local business organizations that are not literally our customer, that are an entity, but that participates in it, so that we can have them carry the message and give them the credit. And it's a little bit different than affiliate in that we can really track it in a much different, much more precise way than here's an ad, put it up somewhere, and we'll give you some payments for it. So we have programs now that have 3 or 4 participants in it along a chain, and we'll track the entire thing all the way to the final conversion. Other questions? Is this interesting to you all? Do you want to have a referral program? I'm actually curious about something. Who has brought up a referral program to their management and sort of not made headway with it? Anyone?
Yeah, we've tried to put a referral program in front of our executives and have been challenged and questioned on the ROI and value it would bring to the organization.
Interesting. Yeah, I've been doing this a while. And in the first parts, there was a lot of why referral. And one of the questions that people would always ask is, would we get this anyway? right? And so there's really two fundamental things we run into with it. One is, do we get this anyway? And the second is it not a really expensive way of getting customers because I got to do all these gift cards? What always baffles me is like, you're paying $1,500, now in a credit union, maybe $300 to a Google or a Meta, but that somehow doesn't factor in to it. So I think when you start casting as this is a media cost, these reward costs is just media. If our total reward cost is lower than our media cost and the quality of customer is higher, meaning we get a higher LTV to CAC, if I could brought you a magic machine that would do that, you would tell me get as much as you can, right? And I think we have to compress down the argument to this is simply an LTV to CAC play here, and it is also a customer acquisition cost stabilization, because there is nobody here who's not having increased costs on it. As I mentioned earlier, the question of attribution. Attribution is quite easy because you get the clicks all the way along. There still are people who will say, oh, I'm not sure, I wouldn't have gotten them anyway, which always cracks me up. It's like you're not willing to pay your customer for doing the same thing that Google does is a little odd to me. But when you see the results on quality, you will understand that Google cannot do what your customer does. They cannot do it. So the only way you're going to do it is to have the customer do it. If you really want to bring in the people who aren't just coming in because you're your recent rate or aren't just coming in because you have some perk going on, you have to engage your customers. Others? Did you have a question, or are you going to close me down? All right, well, thank you all very much.
Thank you. That was awesome. Here's a few things that I learned as people are going in and out of the room. One is understand what percentage of your customers are coming from other customers. And two is understand what makes a customer a quality customer.